that
So
too.
you think the FBI was planning January 6th for months ahead of time?
Once again, that's not what I said.
Yes, well, read your own words. Maybe that's a good starting point.
Kash Patel, the former chief of staff at the Pentagon and longtime Trump ally, has become a central figure in the ongoing debate over the events of January 6, 2021. Known for his aggressive stance against what he calls the deep state, Patel has consistently pushed back against the January 6th committee's investigation into the Capitol riot. Now he's making headlines again with new revelations about the committee's handling of evidence and its potential legal troubles. His latest bombshell raises fresh questions about the credibility of the committee's work and its key members, including Liz Cheney and Bennie Thompson. Patel's push for transparency.
During that time on January 6th, I was serving as chief of staff at the Department of Defense. And days prior, we had received the authorization from the president to issue the National Guard to protect you and your colleagues. But as you know, the law requires a request before the deployment of that guard. That request did not come in until the afternoon of January 6th. Once that request came in, this unfortunately, as has been confirmed by his own testimony, I believe, the Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, failed to immediately deploy the National Guard and instead took a break to speak to media.
Since assuming leadership of the FBI, Kash Patel has made transparency a key priority. His efforts to comply with congressional requests for documents have set him apart from his predecessors. Under his direction, the FBI has been turning over records on a range of topics, including the January 6th investigation, with minimal redactions. His approach has been praised by House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, who has long criticized the FBI for withholding key information. One of the most significant aspects of Patel's recent actions is his willingness to provide documentation on the FBI's handling of January 6th. The committee's investigation had been widely publicized, but critics argue it was politically motivated and that crucial evidence was either ignored or deliberately concealed. Patel's decision to release these documents could shed new light on the committee's work and expose any inconsistencies in its findings. As he continues to push for full disclosure, many are watching to see what these documents reveal, if anything. His critics argue his transparency efforts are politically motivated, aimed at discrediting those who investigated Trump. Patel maintains his only goal is to restore public trust in the FBI and ensure accountability at all levels of government. The full impact of these disclosures remains to be seen, but Patel's commitment to transparency is already shaking up Washington. The January 6th committee under scrutiny.
Endangered the safety of you and your colleagues. And if you look at the Biden Inspector General report, we at the Department of Defense authorized the fastest cold start of the National Guard since World War II and the largest occupation since the American Civil War. And the Biden Justice Department said that we, including myself, as Chief of Staff, when it came to the deployment and employment of the National Guard, acted swiftly and without undue delay.
The January 6th committee, led by Liz Cheney and Bennie Thompson, was established to investigate the attack on the Capitol. Over the course of its work, the committee conducted numerous hearings, subpoenaed witnesses, and gathered thousands of pages of evidence. But Patel's latest disclosures suggest the committee may not have been as thorough or as impartial as it claimed. One of the more explosive claims is that the committee may have deleted or concealed evidence that didn't fit its narrative. Trump and his allies have accused the committee of selectively presenting information to paint him in the worst possible light. Patel's release of new documents could either confirm or debunk these allegations. Cheney, who played a leading role in the investigation, has strongly denied any wrongdoing. She argues the committee's work was driven by facts and its conclusions were based on extensive evidence. But Patel's disclosures are fueling calls for a new investigation into the committee itself. Some members of Congress are already suggesting that Cheney and the other committee members should be held accountable if they misrepresented or destroyed evidence. Trump's influence and the push for accountability.
As for January 6th, I have repeatedly, often, publicly, and privately said there can never be a tolerance for violence against law enforcement. And anyone that commits an act of violence against law enforcement must be investigated, prosecuted, and imprisoned.
Donald Trump has remained a central figure in the ongoing battle over January 6th. His recent comments about the committee members facing legal consequences have only added fuel to the fire. Trump has accused Cheney, Thompson, and others of breaking federal laws and suggested they should be investigated by the FBI. With Patel at the helm, the likelihood of such an investigation has increased. Patel's close ties to Trump have led many to question his motivations. He's been a vocal critic of the January 6th investigation from the start, and his appointment as FBI director has raised concerns among Democrats and some moderate Republicans. His past statements suggest that he views the committee's work as part of a broader effort to undermine Trump's presidency. Whether his actions as FBI director will be driven by political considerations or a genuine commitment to the rule of law remains to be seen. In the meantime, Patel's disclosures are prompting renewed debate about the role of the FBI and other governmental agencies in political investigations. The rocky road ahead.
This is how deep the deep state is. When you have guys like Elon, who are smart as that as he is, and whatever his politics are, they're there. Perkins Coie is right there, the authors of the narrative.
As Patel continues to release documents related to the January 6th investigation, the political landscape is shifting. Calls for further investigations into the committee's actions are growing louder, and the possibility of legal consequences for Cheney and other members remains on the table. If Patel's disclosures reveal serious misconduct, it could reshape the public's perception of the committee's work and its findings. At the same time, Patel himself is under increasing scrutiny. His aggressive push for transparency has won him support among Trump allies, but it has also drawn criticism from those who see his actions as politically motivated. His leadership at the FBI is likely to remain a contentious issue, with both sides closely watching his every move. As more information emerges, the stakes continue to rise. The fight over January 6th is not just about what happened that day, it's about how the investigation was handled and whether key players in Washington will be held accountable. The FBI's changing role under Patel's leadership.
I think most notably, Patel's promise on a recent podcast that he would shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopen it the next day as a museum of sorts to the deep state got a lot of attention. He's also said he'd direct the employees that worked in that building, thousands of them, to chase down criminals, adding, quote, "go be cops." I mean, other Democrats here have argued that Patel intends to weaponize the law enforcement agency. Many have pointed to some really big question marks around his foreign entanglements, including his recent work as a consultant for the Chinese company Shein. Patel consulted for the parent company just last year.
Beyond his efforts to release documents related to the January 6th investigation, Patel's tenure as FBI director is already signaling a broader shift in the agency's direction. Unlike his predecessors, who largely maintained the Bureau's traditional role as an independent law enforcement entity, Patel has made it clear he intends to restructure the agency's priorities. One of his most significant proposals is his plan to move the FBI's headquarters out of Washington and turn the J. Edgar Hoover building into what he calls a museum of the deep state. This proposal underscores his long-held belief that the FBI has been weaponized against conservatives and needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. His critics argue that such a move would further politicize the agency and turn it into an extension of Trump's political agenda. In addition to relocating the Bureau's headquarters, Patel has also suggested he will initiate a sweeping personnel overhaul. He has previously stated that anyone in the agency who participated in what he sees as politically motivated investigations, whether related to Trump, Russia, or January 6th, should be removed or face prosecution. Such a move would represent an unprecedented purge of senior leadership within the FBI and could drastically reshape how the Bureau operates. The implications extend beyond the FBI itself. Patel's restructuring efforts could influence how federal law enforcement agencies interact with political administrations moving forward. The fallout from Trump's January 6th pardons.
So here's their opportunity, Mr. Patel. You find the people that you were convicted of harming, call them, write them a letter, apologize to them. And if you don't, and you come to Capitol Hill, I will track you down and I will burden you until you do.
While Patel's new disclosures about the January 6th committee have dominated headlines, another major development continues to shape the political landscape: Trump's decision to issue mass pardons to those convicted in connection with the Capitol riot. On his first day back in office, he signed an executive order pardoning over 1,500 people, including some of the most violent offenders from January 6th. The move was widely expected, as Trump had long referred to the convicted rioters as hostages and promised to free them if re-elected. But the scale of the pardons shocked many, including some of his own allies. Among those pardoned were people who had been convicted of assaulting police officers, damaging federal property, and conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding. The pardons have already had far-reaching effects. Some of those released have quickly re-entered the political sphere, joining pro-Trump organizations and even seeking office. Others have used their newfound freedom to amplify the narrative that the January 6 defendants were political prisoners, further fueling the perception that the justice system was used as a weapon against Trump's supporters. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think about Kash Patel's latest disclosures? Let us know in the comments section below.